Here we are at the beach today. It's Saturday morning. It's an exceptional day. Wow, it's so beautiful. The water is just clear as can be. Beautiful emerald color. Walk down here a little closer and let you take a look at this. See if the camera will pick this up, but this is as clear as bathtub water. Guess it depends on where you live. It's as clear as our bathtub water. Well, hello there. Welcome to another exciting video of Love, Coco, and Champ. Today we're going to do something just a little bit differently. You can see I have here some toys, you might call them, some tools, other people would call them. But today we're going to talk computers for just a minute. So let me just give you just a little bit of back history and why we're doing this. My very first computer, and I won't tell you because then you'd know how old I am, but let's just say it was in the 90s. My very first computer I actually built from scratch. This was in a romantic era of advancing technology, and there was a local technology engineering company that was closing down a plant, and I had connections with a person that worked there, and every week he'd walk in the door and he'd come in with a part to a computer. One week it was a case, the next week it was a motherboard, the next week it was a little graphics card, the next week it was a LAN card. And so I bought me a book, How to Build a 8386. And I figured out how to put that computer together and used it for many years. It's been a long time since that day. But I've always had the concept to buy an existing older computer and then upgrade it to the latest specs I could. And that way I could get a really customized computer and not have to spend a lot with it. So I'll show you in just a minute what I'm running right now. But for the last 15 years, I graduated from the cheap bargain stuff, and I've only bought Dell Optiplex systems, which are business class systems. They last longer, they're heavier duty, they have better components, and they have served me well. I've always had a computer that's about 10 years behind. I would upgrade it myself. I would buy it bare bones, old, somebody had used it up, and then I would refurbish and upgrade the parts. And it's always worked well for me. Well, so now here we are in 2025, and what's the problem? So my 10-year-old computer is no longer keeping up with technology. There are two things. In the past, I haven't done a lot of heavy-duty work on the computer other than photo editing, but photo editing's getting more advanced. We have AI now, and AI requires some large computing power, and I'll tell you a little bit about that more. But anyway, my system is not keeping up, and now we have Windows 11. A lot of us are being forced to upgrade our computers, and I wasn't about to go out and buy a new one. So enter my new project. So I'm going to do an experiment here, 2025, and what you see are components that will build an AM4 system. And what that means is it runs an AMD processor, which actually I've never used before. I've always been an Intel man, clear back from the 90s, a loyalite Intel guy. But in doing my research, I found out that, so here's my goal. I wanted to do a budget build that would be powerful enough to run my AI photo editing and do some video editing. And I don't do anything really fancy with video editing. In fact, to be quite honest, I'm a novice. But photo editing is one of my passions. Well, okay, I take that back. Photo editing is not my passion. Taking the pictures is my passion. photo editing is a necessity. So that's more on the business side. So to speed things up, it's time to upgrade. So what we're going to do here, I'll tell you a little bit more about this, and I just want to say right up front, this is not a how-to video. I will show you some of the ins and outs of what I'm doing, but I'm not going to explain the details. There are plenty of technical gurus out there who can give you the deep doctrine of building computers. That's not my goal today. My goal is just to have fun, show you the project I'm working on, and give you a little bit of insight as to why I do it. So, this AM4 system, in doing my research, I can buy a last generation or a few generations back AMD processor for quite at an affordable price. In fact, not all these components are new. In fact, well, the case is new. And let me just touch on the case for a minute. Some people, I'm not a gamer. Okay, and my goal is not to build this fancy, illuminating, state-of-the-art computer. My goal is to build a affordable, hardworking, fast computer. And some of the requirements for video and photo editing are different than for gaming. There are some nuances there, but yeah, for the last few years, I've been using mini towers because I like to expand. I have lots of hard drives, lots of things that I add on the computer, lots of expansion cards, and so a small fancy system won't work for me. I was surprised to find out this is supposedly a mid tower, and it's probably a third bigger than my current Dell Optiplex mid tower, so which is fine because I got something that has lots of expansion room. I can have 6 hard drives in this, counting 2 M.2s. And so, a lot of room. So that's new. My motherboard is new. My power supply is new. This power supply is a MSI MPG series, which means, number one, it's got a 10-year warranty. Number two, it uses the Japanese 105-degree capacitors, which are supposed to be the absolute best, longest lasting on the market. But the other criteria for this was quietness. And I might throw in a little later a website you can go to see the specs on all these components. I picked the motherboard. I have a Gigabyte motherboard because at first I was looking at the MSI, but this Gigabyte had more expansion slots and a few more ports, and the expansion slots are important to me, so I went with that. The graphics card, it's used. I bought it off eBay, and it is an entry-level RTX model. I was going to go with the G series, and the more study I did, I realized that for my AI-based photo editing, and when I say AI-based, don't go off in Wonderland with me. What that means is I have recently walked away from Adobe. I have a love-hate relationship. I've used Photoshop for almost 20 years now. I've always loved it. But things have gotten a little crazy with Adobe, and without going into any detail, you've probably read some of the buzz out there. I'm just moving in a different direction. And so the new system I'm using, the AI is local, it's not cloud-based, and it requires a lot of power. And so I decided to spend a little more money and get an RTX card, but it is the entry-level RTX card, and we'll see how it works. This is experimental. And top box, that's just my fan and heatsink for my CPU. What you don't see in the picture, which wouldn't matter because they're small, but I have a Ryzen AMD processor, and I was going to start out with a Ryzen 5, I think 3800X, which was a good performing budget level processor. And the more research I did, for 30 bucks more, I was able to upgrade to a Ryzen 9. And I can't remember the number, but maybe I'll throw that in later. But I have now I can't remember, I think it's a 16-core, 32-thread or something like that processor. And it's the cores and the threads that are important for video editing and probably AI as well. That's the specs I'm looking for. So, and my RAM's not even here yet. It comes today, and I've got some Kingston Furry RAM, 2 sticks of 16 gigabyte for a total of 32 gigabyte, which has been my base for the last 6 years probably. And I've got room to upgrade up to 128, but the way I'm configuring it now, I could grab another 2 sticks of 16 and have 64 gigabyte, and for my needs right now, it's good. But this system is built for expansion. I can't upgrade a lot of it without changing any major components, but we'll see. It's my goal is to keep this system under $650, and I'll talk about that a little more later. Actually, my goal was $600, but like I say, I upgraded on the graphics card from my original specs, and I've made a couple more upgrades as I've gotten into this process, and we'll talk about that. But anyway, that's the goal. We're going to jump in and start putting this thing together. Oh, so the other thing I just wanted to throw out. So when I started this back in the 90s, it was a different life. It was much more difficult to figure out specs, to figure out how things went together, to install a hard drive. For those of you that didn't live through this, you had to know all the data on the hard drive, and you had to actually go in and manually set the parameters, like the number of cylinders, and I don't even remember everything, to make this hard drive work. And you had to know all this information and manually configure it. Everything today is so much simpler. But I've been on the website for Gigabyte for the motherboard. It's so simple. They have all the information there, all the drivers right in one spot to download them. They've made it so simple nowadays. And so this will be a fun project, we hope, and hopefully it'll actually work when we get going. But I'll take you through some of that. Again, not as a how-to, but just to have a fun time and watch the process. And some of you might be intrigued and maybe even inspired to go do it yourself. But this is a system that if I would go out to a retail shop, I'm guessing probably $1,200, $1,500 for something similar to this, and we're going to build it for just over $6,000. So that's the goal, and that's what we're going to do. So yeah, let me show you what I've been running, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we're going to go into my office here underneath my desk, and this is what I'm running now. This is my Dell Optiplex 7040, and like I said, this system is almost 10 years old, and it's running Windows 10, and it does a fabulous job. I've got it loaded with 32 gig of RAM, 4 gigabyte CPU, or GPU, excuse me. It's running an Intel i7 processor. I think it's 4-core, and it does pretty good. But as I've upgraded my software for photo editing, it's not keeping up anymore. So, and where we live in Florida, I've got 2 power supplies in here, one for the computer and one for the network, because we have a lot of power outages. But this is our system to upgrade, so stay tuned for more. So like I say, we're not going to get into too much detail on how this goes together, but I thought I would let you come along for some of it. So the first thing let me just talk about this case. These modern cases are really cool. They have cable management in a back panel. Keeps all your cables back behind the computer and going instead of going through the middle. And so that's cool. Got places for several hard drives. We're going to install the power supply first. And like I say, this case, it's cool. It's got a lot of neat accessories. It's got several fans to keep it cool, lots of ventilation. But it was just a cheap $50 case. This was made by a company called Vivor that I found online. Then I actually discovered you could buy it on Amazon for even cheaper than direct. So that was cool. So we've got our MPG. And we're going to see if we can figure out how to install that first. We've got a nice little label about. This has a feature where the fan, if there's zero load, the fan will actually stop to conserve power. And the one thing we've still got to find is, where do we get our mounting hardware? All right, and I can also see that we've got cables coming out where the hard drives mount. That's going to be tricky, but we'll play with that. I think it's pretty obvious, but we are working on an ATX format. Okay, I guess we do have ventilation on the bottom of the case. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to pull out my hard drive mount. So never mind Coco in the background. She's working on sewing stuff. But let me show you where we are. So we've got the power supply. Put all our cables in. They're all labeled. And I wanted to install those before we put it in the box because it's be difficult to reach after we install it. So it goes in this way. And all our 4 screws in this little bag, we're just going to install that real quick. And then we'll go on to the motherboard. Okay, let's install a couple things. We've got the motherboard here. And first off, let's play with the CPU. So, this is a Ryzen 9 3900X. So, it is the bottom of the line of the Ryzen 9s. But we have all those cores and threads, which I'll have to look up later, I don't remember. Raise our little lever here. Line up pin 1, which has a triangle here. Like I said, I did buy this one used. Pin 1 is notated by the little gold triangle here. And this is the part that requires good eyes. Not to mention nimble fingers. think we got it. Looks like it's seating on all four corners. Can lock it down. Now, this case has options for liquid cooling and all kinds of high-tech things, but we're starting off basic with this AMD fan and heatsink made for the AM4, and it's pre-pasted. It's got thermal paste on it, so don't, word to the wise, don't touch that when you get it. All right, and there is a particular way this goes. All right, we've got that started. Just going to cinch it down just a touch at a time. All right, now, one of the upgrades I talked about. So originally, I was going to go with a Western Digital Blue, 1 terabyte. SSD card, the M.2 NVMe. As I started shopping, I found these very fancy Western Digital SN8000S. They do transfer speeds as high as 7,300 RPM, or megabytes per second, sorry, wrong type of drive. And that's really fast. And it was cheaper than the blue. And so I went for that. But the upgrade was, I got thinking I was just going to transfer my D drive. This is my boot disk. I was going to transfer my D drive from my old computer. And I just realized it would be so much simpler if I could have the new system running and then transfer my data. So I wouldn't have to worry about double transferring. So I bought another one for my D drive. So that was the upgrade. So let's see, we have 2 slots, one here and one here. And this is M2B, M2A, so that's the primary slot over here. So we're going to slide this in. Let's see if our post matches first. Yes, it does. Put it in on an angle. All we need now is our screws. Come in this single pack for each screw. And they are tiny, and I don't have my little tiny tool set here. Guess I need to go get it. But well, I'll try this. a little obnoxious, but I think it'll work. This motherboard has a flash, an automated BIOS update. You can actually update the BIOS before you even put in your CPU or anything else, or your memory. You just have to plug in a flash drive with the new BIOS in a particular USB port on the back, and then there's a button right here that you push, and it automatically updates the BIOS. But we'll wait till we have that in the case and connect it to power before we can do that. All right, so that's exciting. I think we're ready to mount the board in the case. Okay, we're gonna see if we can get this motherboard in the case. As I mentioned, this case is cable management in the back, behind the bottom. And we'll finagle all that later, after we get our motherboard in place. So this case will take all three sizes of motherboards, the micro ATX, the ATX, and the, forget what the other size is, but thinking I need to add some standoffs here. So that back plate actually is snapped inside in place on the case first. And then we'll slide the motherboard into it. All right, we have the motherboard in. We have our two ATX cables connected, ATX here, ATX 12 volt here. The catch with the back plate is that it actually snaps into the case first, and then you slide the motherboard into the back. Now our next step is we're going to update the BIOS. This little button here is the button you push to do that. And you just put your USB with the BIOS file right here. And so that's our next step. So my RAM just showed up. These are brand new sticks. HyperX, which is owned by Kingston. Now we're doing dual channel RAM, so that means that we put them in alternating slots, and if I only am filling 2 slots, typically on most motherboards, and this one is the same, we do channels 2 and 4. So all I got to do is be able to see. All right, that's interesting. Okay, so this is A1, A2, and B1 and B2. So we're going to go channels. I'll have to verify this, but as I recall, we're going A2 and B2. So we'll open up these two. So they do only go in one way. There's a slot in the middle of these. So you have to make sure that you're putting that slot in the right place. It's not centered. Okay. And that's it. So our RAM's ready. We've got a CPU. We have power to our motherboard. So I still need to connect the power switch. So we have the system up and running. I have both of my SSDs in on the motherboard, the NVMe's. One's the C drive, one's the D drive. I already moved my data over. So now I'm moving my existing hard drives from my other system. These would be storage drives. One's for photography and the other one's for video. And system on this case isn't quite as slick as a Dell, which I'm not surprised, but basically we've got this little bracket. We screw our two hard drives in. These were both 6 terabyte drives, and they're going to slide right in here. I had to pull the power supply back out to make some room for this. They're just going to slide right in here. And these new power supplies are modular, so you only have to put in as many power cables as you need for your setup. So I've been taking a few out. I had too many SATA cables. I've got some extra PCI cables I'm going to leave in because I don't know what I'm going to need yet. But these hard drives go right in here, and then the power supply is going to wiggle in, and the cables will have to fudge past them. So I'll throw that in right now. So I have the hard drives in. And I have to admit, the real reason I had to take the power supply back out was to remove a few extra cables that I don't need. And I couldn't do it while it was in there. I actually had to put it back in before sliding the hard drives in. So hard drives are mounted in. And we've got this cable management area, which we hide all these cables actually behind the case. It keeps the clutter out of the case. And you notice I have 2 spots here for mounting SSDs. So we have 2 M.2 NVMe drives. I have 2 hard disk drives. And then we've got room for 2 more SSDs. So this case easily holds 6 drives. And we could find a place for more inside because it's I've got lots of room if we get creative. So I'm just going to spin up one drive at a time. I want to have control over my drive letters, make sure they're where they need to be. These drives have data on them. Of course, they're backed up. So we'll see what they pop up, and if the drive letters are where they were, It should be. So I'm going to spin up the first drive before I apply power to the second drive, and we'll take it a piece at a time. All right, we are booted up and it has recognized my new drive. Looks like it's labeled it as the E drive. I'll just have to change up my backups. I think it was F drive before, but I have to reset up the backups anyway, so not a big deal. Let's make sure we still got data on there. Looking good. Okay. All right, let's hook up the other one. All right, here we go. Haven't tested any of my ports like sound and such. I've used the USB ports, they're working. Let's get logged in here. Okay, so we have drive C, D, E, and F. So we have our operating system and our programs on drive C. There wasn't any point in separating applications to drive D like I did on my last computer because I have a 1 terabyte boot up drive. So there's plenty of room. And then I've got documents, data on drive D. Our photos are on drive E. And our videos are on drive F. Let's just make sure that drive F is good. Look at all those files. Okay, looks like we're good.
Randy. Oh, where are you?
I'm just down here putting the final tweaks on my new computer.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you, is it almost done? Are you finished?
I think I am so close, like 15 seconds away.
Serious?
I hope it works, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be borrowing yours for the next month.
Yeah, well, that's mine. I hope yours is working.
Well, we're going to find out in just a second. Oh, would you look at that? Look, it booted up. Oh, my word, what do we got here? Wait, what's going on here? All right, so behind us you see the flag flying. And we've just learned that at different times of day, they fly a different flag. Oh, this is one of our YouTube videos.
Oh, okay.
Remember this?
I do. I remember where we're at.
Where are we?
It just skipped my mind. Baltimore, Maryland. That's right.
Oh my golly. Okay, well, the computer works. Look how good that video works on my brand new computer. Well, hello there again. I just want to jump back in. It's been 3 months now since I did my budget PC build, and I just want to report back that everything's been working great. So this price, I was able to build it for under $650. I did do some upgrades, and I talked about those in the video. But the one thing I have done since is I told you I started out with the entry-level RTX card. And it did work. It worked okay. But it did take some patience, especially in my image editing. It took a little while to render some AI masking items. And it's fine if you're patient. It did work. But I wasn't patient. So what I calculated is I could take my 3060, I think it was. No, 2060. My 2060 6 gigabyte, or was it 8 gigabyte? No, it was 6 gigabyte. I resold that on eBay, and for about $50 more, I was able to buy a 3060 12 gigabyte. Now, I was going to go with the 4060, but I started doing research, and I found, for my case, I did some testing and analyzing, and I found that the thing that was being demanded on the GPU was the memory. And so I opted with a lower level card, the 3060 versus the 4060, with the addition of the 12 gigabytes, because the 4060 I could only find in the 6 gigabytes. So the 12 gigabytes been working really well, and I am happy with it. Will I upgrade someday to something even faster? Yeah, maybe. But for right now, it's working really well. Actually, seriously, I just want to give you a couple of screenshots here. I'm in the middle of rendering a video. This is just a 1080p, 30 frames per second. But you can see that I'm about 41% through. All right, going over here to our task manager, let me just show you the stats here of what's going on with the computer during the middle of rendering this video. So we're on the GPU screen, and you can see we're using, I don't know, what is that, 2 gigabytes out of our 12 gigabytes of video. Let me zoom in there so you can see that. And I know I could have done a screen recording, but I just thought we'd get this done while I'm looking at it. So there's our chart. Out of 12 gigabytes, we're hardly using anything. Just some random specs down here on our temperature. And so then if we go up to our CPU and our memory, you can see we're using, well, on average, less than 30% of our CPU. Right now it's below 24%. And memory, we're using less than 10 gigabytes out of our 32. So I'm pretty pleased. And now this is after upgrading to the 12 gigabyte GPU. Previous to this, it was still working just fine, but out of the 6 gigabytes on my card, we were pretty much maxing that out. So this has been helpful, but I'm really impressed. So this computer build has been worthwhile. Saved me a ton of money off going and buying something retail. Plus I customized it the way I wanted to. And really pleased. So that's the one thing I have changed since the upgrade. And just to retouch, when I built it, from the time I priced it out, I added an extra NVMe SSD card. So I have 2 of those, and that added to the price another, I think, $60. But anyway, I really could have built this for about $650. So can you do it? Yes, absolutely. Do you want to? I don't know. It does take some time, obviously, but it's not hard, and anybody can do it. So if you'd like to upgrade your computer, whether it's to move into Windows 11 or whether it's for gaming or video editing, go for it. What are you waiting for? Just do it. But thanks for tuning in, and come see us again at Love, Coco, and Champ. Oh, I almost forgot. I've got some links in the description for you. Some of the things I did budget shop on eBay, used items as I mentioned, but those items that I bought new, I'll put some links in the description. Go ahead and check them out. Okay, I'm leaving for real this time. Thanks.